I send an email with the subject line, "Turn toxic clicks into trust." Right away, someone unsubscribes. I wondered, did I go too far? Oh my gosh, that was too direct, too bold. Maybe I made people feel uncomfortable. And you know what? Maybe people need to feel uncomfortable. It took me a little while to get to that place, but I thought if that helps one coach, one team, it's necessary. Then I decided to record this episode to follow up, and it's going to hit even harder today.
Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
I realized that episode last week, my email probably made some people uncomfortable and other people think we need this for our athletes. I debated, do I pull back? The same thing happens in sports culture. We love safe, vague ideas like teamwork and working hard. But the moment we start talking really honestly about clicks, parents, captains, or assistant coaches, people start to feel really exposed. Yet that's exactly where real change happens. I've been so grateful to work with some of the most talented teams and individual athletes who were committed. The coach was excellent, and the culture still struggled. You know why? There were forces outside of the locker room. That's why this mindset, mental performance can't just be for the athletes. When I first started this work, I was telling everyone, and I still tell people, it takes a village. That is not a cute little slogan. Culture is everyone's responsibility. Good teams from the outside, they look perfect sometimes. The roster is stacked with all of this talent. The head coach is respected. He or she may have a long list of accolades. The program has won games. Maybe they even have hung banners in the gym. There's highlights you can look at from previous players. And still, underneath the surface, if you have a growing year or something feels off, you start to see the eye rolls when certain teammates speak. You hear these whispers in the bleachers from the parents. They start questioning decisions that the coaches are making as if they're entitled to do so. You feel this tension in the locker room before big games, sometimes even before practice. On paper, everything looks like we're a good team. In reality, this culture is so fragile. It is not only hurting the athletes on the team and their sport, it is having this ripple effect into every area of their life. Over the past 25 years, I've worked inside so many different programs. As an educator, as a coach myself, and now as a mental performance coach for a variety of different teams and individual athletes, I've seen it again and again. The greatest teams can still fall apart when people start thinking, this culture job, this mental performance thing, that's somebody else's responsibility. We don't all have a part in this. When we first look at it, it doesn't really make sense. If you have talent, you're good at this physically, you have a strong coach, shouldn't the culture just take care of itself? That's a hard no. It doesn't. That might seem surprising because most people are missing this. There's a big myth, and I really hope that last week's podcast didn't contribute to that, but the culture does not belong just to the coach. I can't cover everything in one podcast, so I decided to follow up with this one. If you ask almost anyone right now who owns the culture of a team, they'll probably tell you the same exact thing, the coach. Even last week, when you go and listen to my podcast, I will tell you that the coach is responsible. 100%, I do agree that the coach is the top tier, You're going to hear people say things like, that program has a great coach. Their culture must be amazing. Or you're going to hear someone say, their coach lost the team. Maybe it sounds like this. If the coach would just be tougher, softer, stricter, more understanding, then the team culture would change. We all talk as if this one person can and absolutely should single-handedly create this healthy environment where everything is sunshine and rainbows, where everyone feels valued, supported, and accountable. Yes, last week, again, I'll bring it up. I mentioned to you that the coach has responsibilities, but I also talked about the parents. I also talked about the captains. This belief sounds logical to so many people because the coach is top tier, as I mentioned. And even though it sounds logical, it's also the reason why so many good teams quietly deteriorate. The head coach has to set the tone, but they do not control the text threads that are between all the athletes after a tough loss or the group text that happens every single day. The coach cannot control the car ride home conversations between the parents and the players. The way that the captains talk about teammates when they're frustrated, the coach can't control that. The late night group chats where the complaining turns into this gossip bitch session, coaches cannot control that. The whispers in the hallway at school after playing time changes, the coach can't control those whispers. When we reduce the culture to, well, the coach is responsible, we are really ignoring the reality of how humans actually behave. You are pretending that what happens in the locker room when the coach is talking to the athletes before the game is way more powerful than what has been happening on Snapchat. What they are saying to each other after the game. It just isn't. Let's talk about where team culture actually lives. Culture is not a slogan on a t-shirt. It isn't a quote in the locker room, up on your wall. It's not a great speech before a championship game. It's not the boosters who are out in the hallway selling things. That is not team culture. Culture is actually when you add up what all of the people do and say when they believe that no one important is watching. This is how real culture should be built. Your athletes who are deciding if they're going to include that quiet teammate in the weekend plans, if they're encouraging him or her to join them. When your captains choose whether to confront this disrespectful situation or just look away and ignore it. When your assistant coaches, whether or not they are aligned or not with the head coach, it's what they say publicly and privately about the coach. It's the parents who back the program publicly or criticize it loudly from the stands and the parking lot. It's an athletic director who either supports coaches with clear expectations or they avoid the tough conversations because they just don't want to get in that right now. Culture is living in those group chats. It's the text messages. It's the bus rides. It's the sideline comments, the eye contact or the lack of it at practice and games. It's reinforced by who gets praised, who gets ignored, and what gets tolerated. When you hear people say, we have a culture problem, what they are really saying and what they really mean is we have a pattern of behaviors. You need to understand that patterns are not going to change when you have one team meeting. They are going to change when everyone connected with the team starts owning their role in the environment. I'm sure right now a lot of people probably associate me and say, Kate helps athletes with confidence. And 100%, yes, I do. I coach athletes on how to handle the pressure. I help them bounce back from a mistake that they make right now or in the past. I help them show up as leaders on the team, whether or not they have a title or not. And I help them speak up. I teach them tools like visualization, breath work, self-talk, emotional freedom tapping. They learn how to quiet that noise that's floating through their brain and they sharpen their focus. Mental performance, mindset training, it's necessary, but it's not the entire equation. How could it be? Let's say we have a team and I'm their mental performance coach. I'm working with the whole team. We have an athlete who's doing everything, mental performance reps. They're putting all of the reps in. They don't miss any check-in with me. They regulate their emotions. They try to communicate clearly, and they really do a great job. They show up prepared. They are locked in. But when you look at the environment, the athlete is stuck in this environment where there's all these cliques that are running the social scene. The parents are undermining the coach at home, in the bleachers, out in the parking lot. The captains almost have this entitlement instead of leadership. There's assistant coaches that are rolling their eyes behind closed doors or sometimes right out in public. Then we ask this individual athlete to overcome all of that. We want them to deal with all of those things that are happening. The village isn't doing their job. Mental performance is incredibly powerful. But if you want to sustain this culture, it requires alignment from everyone. That's why it takes a village is a real thing. This is why sometimes you see these teams where you say, wow, they have less raw talent than us, but they end up outperforming these so-called powerhouses. The environment supports this team. Their athletes don't have to fight their own team to compete freely. When you bring all of these pieces together and you do it the right way, strong mental performance skills, plus this healthy, aligned environment for your athletes, guess what you get? You get athletes who are able to handle the pressure. This team just shows up differently. They're united. They're consistent under the pressure, and they leave the program as better humans. This is what your program should want. You don't change your culture with that motivational poster. You change it by being ruthlessly honest about what is actually happening.
I need to jump in here. Coach, quick question. Do your athletes look amazing at practice, but when the game gets tight or you have a big competition, they panic, lose focus, fall apart, start talking negatively before they even compete, missed plays, bad body language, heads down? You know they have the talent, but pressure is winning. That's not a talent problem. That's a mental side of the sport problem. I run a team program called The Champion Within, where I train athletes using my CHAMP framework: confidence, habits, attitude, mental imagery, and purpose. I literally retrain their brains so they know how to stay calm, get focused, and compete like the champions they are. When the moments get big, they need to know how to regulate their nervous system. It needs to be automatic. The teams that win consistently, they train their minds, not just their bodies. Just go down to the show notes, click on the link, or send me a DM on Instagram with the word team, and I'll get you everything you need. Okay, let's get back to the podcast.
I'm going to throw a few questions out there, and I'm going to invite you as coaches, parents, athletes to just sit with and think, reflect on these, and answer honestly. What behaviors are you rewarding? Are you rewarding only because of stats? Or are you also rewarding effort, communication, how athletes are treating each other? Remember, if the only people getting positive attention are the stars on the team, regardless of how they act, guess what you're training everyone else to believe? They're believing that talent is more important than character. I'm willing to bet right now that you would never say that publicly as a coach or a parent. At least I hope you wouldn't. Consider this. What conversations are you avoiding? Are there assistant coaches, or maybe you are an assistant coach? Are you having open disagreements with the head coach? Are you doing this in front of athletes and parents? And are you aware if there's any small groups that are isolating or mocking teammates? Are there parents who are constantly stirring the pot? Are you one of them? And does everyone know it, but no one wants to be the one to address it? Are you avoiding conversations just so you can stay neutral? You need to understand that if you're saying yes to any of this, it is slowly eating away the trust of your athletes and your team. It doesn't matter what you put on your t-shirt this year. It's just words. I know some of you are uncomfortable about this, but you need to be supporting the culture. Sometimes you're unintentionally doing it, but sometimes you're doing it on purpose. I know that most parents want to help. They love their kids, they're invested, but love without this awareness, that can do a lot of damage. And you need to take a step back and be aware. You ask your kids to be aware, you better start doing it too. If you want to be a part of the village, think about what you are pouring into their brain. What are you saying on the car ride home or when you're at the house? What are you saying to them? If you're saying things like, I can't believe you're not starting, your coach has no idea what they're doing, think about that. These conversations are shaping exactly how athletes see their coach, their teams, and themselves. If you have a captain, if you are a captain, what are they modeling? What are they expected to model? Do they know? If you're a coach right now, do they know? Last episode, I talked about how they have to know. They're the culture carriers. They don't have to be the best player on the team. They don't have to be your seniors. I think captains are done so crazily on some teams. That's last episode. Go back and listen. But they're not the enforcers. They're not the little mini assistant coach. They're the culture amplifiers. They're the ones who turn up the speaker. They are the culture amplifiers of the tone that the coaching staff sets. If you're a captain and you're listening right now, or your kid's a captain and they're showing up late, they're cutting corners, they're bitching and complaining all the time, you know what the rest of the team is thinking and hearing? Oh, this is normal here. This is the culture. If the captain is first in drills, they're the last one to leave, they're willing to have a hard, honest conversation with teammates, go talk to the coach respectfully, then the standard is going to rise naturally. When I'm working with teams through my Champion Within programs, we walk through these questions often, and it's not to blame, but it's to reveal what's going on. You have to have this honest look inside. It's an inside-out job. Sometimes we can't even see it. You have to slow down to see it. If you can't see it, you can't transform it. And what you refuse to see, you're not going to fix. I actually love this conversation. It just naturally opens up the door for people who care most. If you're still here, you're one of those people. Or maybe you're just letting yourself get uncomfortable, but you're definitely one of those people. You're maybe an athletic director and you're thinking, we need healthier programs overall. Of course, we want to win, but it's not just about winning. Yes, we want to win. Do not confuse that, but it's not just about the wins. Maybe you're a coach and you're feeling like, you know what? I'm carrying everything alone and I'm freaking exhausted. I'm trying to police all these things and do all the things. I'm wearing all the hats and something's got to give. There's a missing piece. If you're coming from the parent angle, and if you've been here long enough, you know I got 3 kids. I see you. I love you. And you genuinely want to be a part of the program, a part of the village. And maybe you just don't even realize the influence that you and other people are having on the team and the culture. Maybe you're a club director or a club coach, and you're trying to retain good coaches and build something that lasts within your club program. When you understand that this culture is a system, it's the village, it's not just one person doing everything, everything's going to shift. The athletic directors can start building a support system, the village, that can help keep everybody aligned. You need pieces of the puzzle to all fit together. I keep talking about the pieces of the puzzle. I interviewed 2 coaches that I got to work with, New York cheerleading coaches, state champions. A couple episodes ago, go back and scroll. You'll see that I talked with them and they kept talking about how this mental performance piece bringing me in was the missing piece of the puzzle. So that's where it is coming from. Just keeps floating into my brain. It's important to remember that you can't just talk about this before the championship game or senior night or when you're about to head to nationals for cheer. Culture is going to be built on a random Tuesday afternoon when nobody wants to be at practice. It's built in how you treat the injured athlete who can't contribute out on the track. It's built when your star player is held to the same standard as everyone else. It's built when you make a decision to say, that is not how we talk about our teammates, even when it would be so much easier to just laugh along. And it's built when leaders dare to send a bold email, one that might be titled Toxic Clicks. The goal is always to create trust together. Some people will always unsubscribe from that message. They'll decide it's not for them. That's okay, because the ones who stay, the ones who lean in and say, you know what? This is the work that we actually need. This is what our athletes need. Then those athletes, the coaches, the parents, the athletic directors, they're the ones who are going to build something real, not just for one season, but it's going to actually change those athletes' lives. Remember, it's going to be built every single day by everyday choices made by every single person connected to this team. You need to remember you have more influence than you think and more responsibility. Every one of you is a part of the village. The way you speak, react, support, question, and show up is all a part of the village, and you're helping your athlete navigate through. You don't need to have a perfect past to create a better future for your team. That is important for you to remember. As a matter of fact, you can learn so much from the screw-ups. Believe me, I could do a podcast on all of the screw-ups I've done in life. Everyone needs to own that we're all a part of it, that we can all grow, we can learn, and year after year, you get better and better at this. The goal is never perfection. It's to trust the process. Thank you for tuning in today for the Champion Within. I'm rooting for you always.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.